She jumped around and jumped through hoops and turned into a pretzel. He should have said, don't come to me. Give her my time. Answer the question to the American people.
Yes.
She can't answer the question. She's lying already in the first part of the debate. The most consequential, important question ever she couldn't answer. Stevie Wonder can see it was a 3-on-1. They literally fact-checked everything and had prepared fact checks for him. Didn't fact-check nothing and she lied 1,000 times. And I'm not protecting Trump. He should have freaking prepared.
Well, the polls were shifting in Donald Trump's favour before Tuesday night's debate. For all the relentless talk of joy and change, voters felt that Harris had failed to define herself and her platform. They wanted and needed to know more. Well, most viewers think that she won the debate quite comfortably in the end. But did she move the dial? Was this simply a missed opportunity for Trump to land a killer blow? Or was it the turning point that Vice President Harris has been desperately searching for? My next guest cannot be accused of failing to give straight answers to the big questions. Host of No Spin News and the author of the new book, Confronting the Presidents, Bill O'Reilly, rejoins me now. Bill, great to have you back.
Is it really, Piers? Is it really great to have me back? Or are you just saying that?
It is genuinely great to have you uncensored. I can't think of a man more better equipped to appear on a show called Uncensored than you. Right, well, let's get uncensored about this debate. Who do you think won?
No one. Trump didn't help himself. Harris didn't hurt herself. But if you are a fair-minded person and you listen to both of them, they both had, let's say, dubious nights. Donald Trump just can't discipline himself. He gets caught in the, migrants eating dogs and cats. Let's relitigate the 2020 election for the 835th time. He calls her a Marxist, but doesn't back it up. A lot of rhetorical mistakes, Mr. Trump. In my opinion, Kamala Harris was even worse because she absolutely flat out refuses to answer any direct question. 3 examples. The moderator said, are there any restrictions at all that you would support on abortion? She doesn't answer the question. Moderators say to her, did you support the Afghan withdrawal? She doesn't answer the question. Then they say, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? She doesn't answer the question. Every single time. Now, American voters, some of them are astute and pick that up. Others don't care. They vote on emotion. They believe what they want to believe. But if you're going to look at that debate as somebody helping America last night, neither of the 2 candidates, in my opinion, did that.
You see, my take on it, and I watched it all first thing in the morning here in London. I taped it, woke up, had a couple of coffees, and was very clear-headed and tried to watch it with a very clear, fair-minded head. My assessment.
And that's unusual for you. That's unusual for you to be clear-headed.
Very unusual. Right? Very unusual.
Right.
Better than a glass of my favourite French Bordeaux, Bill, to addle the brain. But I watched it, and here's what I thought. I genuinely thought Trump was going to flatline her. And in boxing parlance, far from him delivering what could have been a knockout blow if he had, in the way that he knocked out Biden, I felt that she won on points. And I'll tell you why. Because I felt that she jabbed him in a deliberately provocative way, and he reacted exactly how she hoped he would, right down to, taunting him about the size of his rally crowds and so on. And Trump couldn't help himself but get rattled by that very trivial sort of attack line. And I was surprised he wasn't a lot more combative. Whether he'd been told not to by his debate team, whether it was a deliberate strategy, whatever it was, he just struck me as just not quite as fired up as I'm used to him in a debate stage. And for that reason, in the end, I thought, you know what? She came in with such low expectations. She got quite a few jabs away. If it was with a boxing match, on points, I'd give it to Kamala Harris.
I can explain why he wasn't more combative, because he needs American women to vote for him. And all the surveys, both internal and outside, show that that's his problem. American women feel he's too bellicose, too nasty, too mean. So he brought it down. My problem with Donald Trump's presentation is he talks too much. I mean, this is not a hard definition of Kamala Harris. She is the most progressive leftist ever to run the presidency in America. When you read Confronting the Presidents, and you should as soon as you can, because it's relevant to today. There's nobody comes close, not even Barack Obama, to what Kamala Harris believes. All Trump had to do was define those beliefs because the moderators weren't going to do it. Harris isn't going to do it. Harris is telling you she's a moderate now. I mean, every position she held, including co-signing Bernie Sanders' national health care bill, now she repudiates it. All Trump had to do was just run it down. But he wants to explain, over-explain, gets himself into all kind of rhetorical trouble. And the second thing is the moderators at ABC, and you got to understand the corporation Disney, Bob Iger runs it, they hate Trump. So there were a lot of loaded questions to him and to make Kamala look good. I'll give you one clear example. So David Muir, who is not an ideologue, by the way, Lindsay Davis, the co-moderator, is ardent liberal, but Muir isn't. But Muir throws to Kamala Harris, hey, if Trump's elected, he says he's going to put the people in jail who were fraudulent in the 2020 election. I mean, this is the biggest softball or soccer ball in England could possibly float. Of course, she's going to take and run. Oh, he's a dictator on day one. Oh, he's going to destroy the Constitution, which is exactly what she said. And Muir knew that. ABC knew. News knew they were giving her this big thing and whack. All right? Trump didn't get any of that. But Trump should have known that was going to happen. And he didn't look like he was cognizant of what was going around him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought his best line was his last line. We've got a clip here. This is his closing line, which I felt was what he should have said repeatedly during the debate. Let's take a watch.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
See, that to me, Bill, was the obvious thing to keep saying. She's presenting herself as some breath of fresh air, you know, new blood. She's actually been the vice president under Joe Biden for nearly 4 years now. As Trump said at the end, very coherently, actually, yeah, if you're going to do all this stuff, why haven't you done it?
You know, look, that is, he did get that across. I mean, at one point in the debate, he says she's Joe Biden. And then she, you know, turns to him and goes, I'm not Joe Biden. You're running against me. I'm not. Well, if you're not Joe Biden, lady, with all due respect, you haven't come out in one instance and differed with him about anything. And when you were in the Senate for 4 years, you voted straight party line and co-sponsored radical progressive bills. That's all Trump has to say, okay? And he hit her on the border, he hit her on inflation and all that, but then her comeback is, it's all Trump's fault. Trump didn't support the border bill, so this is his fault. Trump ignited inflation while he was in there, which is absolutely false. And Trump, all he had to say was, look, when I left, it was 1.4% inflation. In the first year, you went over 9. How did that happen? Okay? These are the questions that should have been asked by the moderators, but you're never going to get that in America today, because the corporate media is infused with ideology. And there's no doubt about it. We don't have a free press. We have a profit press, and they speak to the choir. That's what we have. But again, it's on Trump to define her. And he got muddled up in all of this crazy stuff. And I don't think he lost any votes, Donald Trump. So if any of you are going to vote for him before the debate, you're still going to vote for him. But he needed to persuade some people because it's that close here.
Yeah, that's the point. And I completely agree. He got sidetracked way too many times. And that's what I mean about she kept jabbing him. And rather than responding in kind, he kind of got himself entangled in all sorts of weird little rabbit hole stuff, which just was
crazy.
sort of, it was like watching one of his rallies when he gets into the second hour and just starts riffing. But it doesn't work in a tight debate. And also, you got 90 minutes there It's actually a lot of airtime. If you want, he had 6 more minutes apparently of airtime, Trump, than Kamala Harris. If you don't like the questions you're getting, you can use the airtime you have to ask the ones or answer the ones that you want. In other words, you can frame what you say any way you like. You're not beholden to behave exactly how the moderators want you to. And I was surprised Trump didn't do that more often.
He wasn't nearly as sharp as he was against Biden.
Yeah.
So let's advance the story. I'm sorry I'm taking over your program, but you know how obnoxious I am. Let's advance the story, all right? So Election Day is less than 2 months away. In 1984, and again, you'll learn this when you read Confronting the Presidents, all right? Ronald Reagan got waxed by Walter Mondale, of all people, in the first debate. Mondale destroyed him. And Reagan looked old and befuddled and doddering, and it was panic. And then they had another debate. And Reagan was much better prepared, much more incisive, and he beat Mondale, and then there was a landslide victory for his reelection. That can happen now. Now, as you may know, I've known Donald Trump for almost 35 years. I mean, I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're certainly acquaintances. I don't talk to him on a regular basis. I don't intrude that way. I'm a journalist. I don't call people up and tell them what to do. All right. But on my program, the No Spin News, which you can get on YouTube because the UK blocks it, okay, I suggested that Donald Trump hold a press conference tomorrow, and talk about the debate. Because Kamala's not going to do that. She's not going to sit down with anybody because she can't answer the one-on-one questions. All she can say is, I'm aspirational. I'm joyful. We need a new pathway forward. Hey, Madam Vice President, if you and Biden were so good, why do we need a new pathway forward? All right? So Trump should have a press conference as fast as he can put it together to try to regain the momentum he lost in the debate.
If you're Kamala Harris, she said she wants another debate, but if you were advising her, would you advise her not to have one?
I wouldn't. If I were Kamala Harris, I'd go home with my winnings.
Yeah.
And again, she didn't win, but she didn't hurt herself. So now it's a slugfest.
Which is a win, you see.
You
see, I would categorize her not hurting herself as a big win, because the expectation was Trump would beat her up.
You can do that. But I'm doing it on traditional debate roles. Look, when you analyze, and again, I'm plugging my book, but that's what I have to do here. We printed 500,000 copies. When you analyze all the presidential races, Kamala Harris is most like the immortal Warren Harding, 1920. All right? Harding gets elected overwhelmingly, never does a press conference, doesn't even campaign, doesn't come out of his house in Marion, Ohio. He's too busy chasing his mistress around, okay? And the reason he wins is because the American public was so fed up with Woodrow Wilson, those are the World War I era, they would have voted for a chimpanzee.
Right.
That's what the Harris people are hoping. That Trump is digging himself such a big hole as far as image is concerned, they can beat him just on that. So if I were Harris, I wouldn't do a second debate, but Trump needs one.
Let me ask, there was a moment in the debate when Trump, attacked the fact that Joe Biden's always on the beach. It is a quite extraordinary situation that the current president of the United States seems to be absent without leave, lying on a beach in Delaware most of the time. Has there, in your book, has there been a similar situation like this where for many months a sitting president is not really the president?
Grover Cleveland disappeared for 3 months because he had cancer, mouth cancer, and they whisked him away to Cape Cod. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody was in charge of the government. Woodrow Wilson had a stroke. Edith ran the government. Okay? Ronald Reagan, after he was shot, and not only did I write Confronting the Presidents, but I wrote Killing Reagan. Nancy Reagan, pretty much the most powerful person in the country, while he was convalescing. So this has happened before. Now you say President Biden's absent without leave. He's got leave. His own party said, get lost.
Yeah.
We don't want you around.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a brilliant political move.
Yes.
Because Harris, as shallow as she is, and I don't even believe that Kamala Harris understands the issues. Forget about having problem-solving abilities. I don't think she understands. Whenever I hear her say two-state solution in Gaza, there isn't two states, lady. There's one state, all right? The Palestinians don't have a state. They're run by terrorists. Do you not understand that? When there's no state and all you have are killers trying to wipe you off the face of the earth, you can't solve that problem unless you obliterate the killers on this anniversary of 9/11. But Kamala Harris doesn't understand that. Somebody told her, oh, it's two-state solution. Oh, yeah. She doesn't know. But she could win.
Let me ask you this. Is there another trump card, for want of a better phrase, that the Democrats could play which would really help her? If it still was neck and neck, if Biden could be persuaded to give up the presidency and she became...
No, he's not going to do that.
Is it possible? Is it technically possible?
No. Yeah, he could resign, but he's not going to do that because it doesn't get the Democrats anywhere to do that, okay? That brings the focus back on Joe Biden. Right now, Biden is Claude Rains, the invisible man, all right? If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. That's where he is. They trot him out. He does some ceremonial stuff. And then, as you said, he goes back to Rehoboth, Delaware, and he lies under the umbrella. And that's what he's going to do for the duration. All right? So why bother stirring this thing up and then having people's attention diverted away from hating Trump? It's all about hating Trump. That's it. That's what this election is about. Because if you compare the 4 years that Donald Trump actually governed to the 7.5 years that Kamala Harris is in Washington, there's no comparison on the face of the earth. None. But Americans are very emotional people, and they may not care about that.
And how significant is the very ringing endorsement from Taylor Swift, who right now is the biggest pop star on the planet? Do these things matter, Bill? Would it help with young women, for example?
Young women aren't going to vote for Donald Trump. Okay. I mean, Taylor Swift, and I actually met her, and she was very nice to my teenage daughter, by the way. And I think she's a nice person. She's not a political scientist, and she will not be attending Oxford, as my son recently did, anytime soon. So all this is pop culture, all right? I mean, is Herman's Hermits going to endorse the Prime Minister of England? It's not going to matter. I know I'm dating myself, I know that, but it doesn't matter.
Do any endorsements matter? I mean, we had a debate actually the other day where we were talking about this, and I spoke to Destiny, who said, he'd even accept an endorsement from Adolf Hitler if it helped move the needle. Are there any endorsements which you should reject outright publicly?
Of course. I mean, you don't want to take an endorsement from somebody who's heinous, somebody who's evil. But all of this is sideshow stuff. What it comes down to in November is Americans are suffering economically because they're paying far more for the essentials of life than they did. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, we have 12 million foreign nationals undocumented in this country without any supervision at all because of the Biden-Harris administration. Those are the two things. Now, millions of Americans don't care. I don't know why. I get furious, and I got plenty of money. I get furious when I walk in there and got to pay 3 times as much for a carrot than I did 4 years ago, when it was totally unnecessary. All right? So I'm not voting for Kamala Harris, and I don't endorse anybody. All right? But I'm not voting for this because this is gross incompetence. In Confronting the Presidents, Joe Biden's the second worst president that has ever served this country. Why? Because he created the problems that we are experiencing now. Most bad presidents, Hoover and others, inherited them and couldn't solve them. Biden caused them, and Harris went along with it.
How did you feel when you heard Dick Cheney's ringing endorsement for Kamala Harris?
I'm just glad that Cheney wasn't telling America to invade Iraq again. I was, wow, I thought he was going to get us back there. Again, I mean, if it's between Dick Cheney and Taylor Swift, I'll probably go with Cheney. But It's all personal. You know, the Cheneys hate Trump. The Bushes hate Trump because Trump insults people. And they don't like that. That's all personal.
Do you think this debate, Bill, finally will determine who wins the election, or have we got a long 60 days ahead of us?
It's not going to be a long 60 days. It's going to go by like that. The debate helps Kamala Harris. But if Donald Trump, like Ronald Reagan, can recover, if he buttons it, you got to be surgical and disciplined. I've never seen that from Donald Trump. But he did come close in the Biden debate. Got to get back there and redefine Kamala Harris in a very simple way. She's an extremist, a left-wing extremist. And you got to just keep pounding that. So right now, Harris is ahead. That can change, obviously.
Bill O'Reilly, great to have you back. Thank you very much indeed.
Read my book, Piers.
Confronting the Presidents.
I'm going to give you a quiz.
Confronting the Presidents.
I'm going to give you a quiz. Okay.
I will.
Thanks for having me in.
All right, take care. So Kamala Harris won the battle, but will she win the war of the election? How does Trump fight back? Did Harris finally define herself and her policies, or did she just surprise us all with basic competence? To debate this, I'm joined by TikTok influencer Harry Sisson, host of the Bitchuation Room, Francesca Fiorentini, podcast and radio host Ben Ferguson, and Brandon Tatum, the host of the Officer Tatum. Welcome to all of you. So we've had a bit of time to digest now what went on Tuesday night with this debate. Ben Ferguson, have you got any possible way of trying to claim Trump won this debate?
This is why you and I are friends, Piers. I said it right afterwards. It was not his best debate. I think Kamala Harris was the one that technically won the debate. And then the question became, was his closing argument enough to actually make the American people look at their lives and say, was I better off when Donald Trump was president, or am I better off now with Kamala Harris in charge? And that is going to be the saving grace, I think, for him, because if you looked at those that were undecided that were interviewed on CNBC afterwards and on CNN afterwards and ABC, they actually all said the same thing. They think Donald Trump's better at dealing with the economy. And when things are bad in the economy, that's what you look at. So I think that can save him. Now, if I'm Kamala Harris, I want another debate. And in the next debate, Donald Trump better do a much better job of showing up and talking about those issues that the American people care about, and they care about the economy.
That is the nearest thing to an admission of defeat I've ever heard come from your lips.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, he killed it. It was his best debate ever. I mean, I was watching the TV going, come on, man, like, get in the fight. This is not that hard. You need to hammer her on this issue or that issue. And look, her record is her biggest downfall. And he got sidetracked. He took the bait from her far too often in the debate. And in the first debate, if you remember, you go back to when he was debating Biden, he never took the debate that night. Yeah. I think he walked in there thinking, she's going to be easy to beat. I'm going to be able to win this thing, and I'm going to do what I do. I'm Donald Trump. And it didn't work out that way.
I thought he was complacent. Yeah, I mean, Francesca, I thought what was interesting was that Kamala Harris played to her strengths, which is as a prosecutor. She kept turning directly at Trump, mocked him, scorned him, but also kind of prosecuted him in the room on that debate stage. I thought very effectively. She did a lot better than I thought she would. She wasn't intimidated by Trump at all. And in the end, won that debate. But, you know, how significant is that going to be, do you think, when it actually comes to the election itself?
I don't think you guys are giving Donald Trump enough credit. I absolutely think he won the debate, just not the one with Kamala Harris. He won the debate he was having with the cloud he was yelling at, like Grandpa Simpson. And I do think he modeled real leadership up there, right? You know, in terms of like healthy eating, for example, because he forced Americans to eat all of his word salad. And I think that is a model of leadership. And I also think he was good on foreign policy. He didn't get enough credit for this. He was good on foreign policy because he can show that he can be a commander in chief. You know what I'm saying? Because every military person knows you need to have the element of surprise. And Donald Trump's mouth surprises his brain every single moment. And I thought that was perfect. And it was on full display. I mean, it was amazing that he talked about pets being harmed, because the only pet that was harmed was Donald Trump as he was dog walked by Kamala Harris. So I love.
You're enjoying this, aren't you, Francesca?
I mean, I'm not even like, I don't think Kamala Harris is a God emperor like the right thinks Trump is, but my God, could he not just finish one single thought and the bait? I mean, and this is what to your
But
actual
it's 3
question.
against 1 is kind of hard.
Well, on that point,
Wait, no, but on the bait, I think the
on.
bait was really important.
Hang on that point. I want to play a clip. I want to play a clip of Donald Trump talking to Sean Hannity on that very point.
I think it was our best debate ever. I thought it was really good. We had 3 against 1, but I anticipated.
Let's talk about that. 3 against 1, and all of her radical positions they leave on the table.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of negative kind of stuff. Look, I saw on your show last night, they had 100% positive coverage on ABC, and I had 94% negative coverage.
93% negative.
I exaggerate.
Now, Brandon, there's no doubt watching it that I felt that the ABC moderators went harder on Trump than they did on Kamala Harris. Francesca, are you eating? You're eating a cat at the moment. Is this something you want to share with the group?
I'm sorry, I didn't. I thought we were still on a clip. I didn't know. I just. I mean, I heard it was a rumor in Springfield, but it's happening in Los Angeles too.
Very good. Very good. Let's get back to Brandon. Brandon, there's no doubt, I don't think, that the moderators were harder on Trump than they were on Kamala Harris. That's been borne out by people who've researched every part of the debate. However, you can blame the moderators to a point, but Trump is big enough and ugly enough to stand up for himself. He had plenty of airtime. He had 6 more minutes airtime than Kamala Harris. He could have used that time much more effectively, couldn't he?
1,000%. Donald Trump completely failed his preparation. I don't think he prepared at all. The debate should have been over the very first question. They say, are you better off, or is the American people better off now than 3 years ago? She jumped around and jumped through hoops and turned into a pretzel, avoiding that question. Donald Trump should have simply said, hey, stop talking, or when they asked him, he should have said, don't come to me. Give her my time. Answer the question to the American people.
Yes.
She can't answer the question. She's lying already in the first part of the debate. The most consequential, important question ever she couldn't answer. Stevie Wonder can see it was a 3-on-1. They literally fact-checked everything and had prepared fact checks for him. Didn't fact-check nothing, and she lied 1,000 times. This woman completely lied about Charlottesville. That's been already debunked.
Amen.
Think about this.
What was debunked about Charlottesville?
6th. They brought up January 6th. Can you be quiet, please, for just 1 second? They brought up January 6th, which was a very long time ago, when he almost got assassinated. And they didn't even bring up the assassination. You know, these things show clear bias. And I'm not protecting Trump. He should have freaking prepared. He's like Michigan playing against Appalachian State and getting their butts handed to him. But you cannot avoid the fact that these people were moderating and supporting Kamala Harris during this debate.
Yeah, and you know what, Harry? Just on that point about how disingenuous Kamala Harris was being at the same time as Trump was, this whole thing about bloodbath, for example, everyone who's seen the full quote knows that Trump was talking about a bloodbath in the motor industry related to China. The idea that she then turned this into, last night, a genuine bloodbath involving people shedding blood, is obviously a disingenuous spin on it, if not a blatant lie. You know that, right?
Piers, I mean, let's not act as if that's not true about Donald Trump, that if he loses...
Hang on.
Wait, hold on now. We saw what happened on January 6th. There was bloodshed as a result of Donald Trump denying his election. Are you saying that this is out of the realm of possibility here?
Don't keep talking. On that one point, do you concede that Kamala Harris deliberately misused that quote to imply a genuine bloodbath when, in fact, he was talking about a bloodbath in the motor industry? Do you accept that?
What Donald Trump does very deliberately
is
to use these words.
Distract.
I'm answering. Hold on now. What Donald Trump does very deliberately is use these words in certain contexts to kind of signal to his base. It happened on January 6th, and it continues to happen today when he's saying, yeah, I'm going to arrest all the cheaters in 2020, when he's trying to use that as a guise, as a lie to try to go after his political opponents. So to Piers, to be like, oh, well, Kamala Harris misquoted him, just look at Donald Trump's record and what he's done with things surrounding January 6th, and then you can see what Kamala Harris is talking about.
All right, so hang on, guys. Let me do this. So in other words, Harry, just to be clear, it doesn't matter if she was lying in that case because there are other times when he deserved it.
No, she's not lying. What she's talking about is Donald Trump deliberately using these very specific words. Well, he uses these very specific words to rile up his base. He does this all the time.
Well, it was a genuine whopper. But let me hang on. Don't talk over each other. I will come to all of you. Don't worry, Harry. On the bigger picture, there's no doubt to me it was a very good night for Kamala Harris. No doubt to me that the endorsement for Taylor Swift was also a very big tick in the box for her, given just how many millions of young women love Taylor Swift. But if there's another debate, are you concerned that you'll see a very different Trump and that Kamala Harris will have to be adaptable to that if it comes?
Piers, we've seen the same Donald Trump for like 8 years now. There's not been a single debate of which he's composed and focused. He took the bait every single time last night.
Well, the last debate, he ended Joe Biden.
Can you be quiet because he was so good?
Well, hang on.
Wait, hold on.
Harry,
hold on,
the last
everybody.
debate,
Relax,
to be clear, the last debate, he ended Joe Biden's career.
Are you saying that Donald Trump's performance in the last debate was good?
I'm saying it was good enough to end Joe Biden's career, yes.
Joe Biden's brain ended Joe Biden's career, you guys.
Let Harry answer first.
Pierce, I love him. No, Donald
Well, you told me Joe Biden was going to win,
not...
so we've had that conversation.
Well, I mean, there was a different political environment.
He ain't going to win now, Harry.
Things evolve over time. Hey, things evolve over time. Last time he ran against Donald Trump, he beat him by 7 million votes, so we're still 1-0 against Donald Trump. But look, Donald Trump's performance, his last debate performance was terrible. He didn't talk about policy. He also took the bait then. He defended January 6th last debate as he did last night. Yes, he did. He continues to talk about pardoning January 6th insurrectionists, calling them patriots. Are you kidding me? The people who assaulted police officers are patriots?
All right,
so, Piers, we're going to see the same Donald Trump. Wait. We are going to see the same Donald Trump in the next debate if there is one because he is scared.
The reason why I don't think Kamala Harris's appearance last night is actually going to move the needle much, because her surrogates come out and they just make crap up, and it's insulting to the American people. They are sitting here and they'll tell you that Kamala
you're supporting
Harris
a guy who
is
continues to lie about the
on
election.
Issues like gun confiscation. She comes out and she says, "Oh, I'm now in favor of having fracking, even though I've always been against fracking." There's a problem with Kamala Harris. People don't believe her and they don't trust her. And Donald Trump has to do a better job of talking about these flip-flops. She's in favor of things that are extreme. For example, hold on, let me finish.
Wait, Donald Trump the other day said he was going to vote against the Florida ballot initiative, and then the next day said the opposite thing.
I'm talking. I'm going to quote Kamala Harris. You love her. You should respect that. I'm talking. Last night,
you were just interrupting me.
ABC News didn't ask a single question about communist price controls at the grocery store or having mandates from the government to pay for housing. How the hell do you have a debate when her most controversial proposal goes to a Soviet-style system with grocery stores? And the reason why they didn't ask her is because they knew she couldn't defend it, and they realized it would hurt her too bad. So the entire debate, you go without asking that question, which she rolled out in her own words a couple weeks ago and said, "I'm just going to go after anyone that doesn't have a price of a good that I say you must sell it at," which would destroy the entire market. That is why Kamala Harris, I still think, is going to lose.
Okay, Francesca, let me hang on. And also, Francesca, what about all her flip-flopping? Because that's been the big argument against Trump, that he's a relentless flip-flopper. But Kamala Harris, whether it's about defunding the police, whether it's about fracking, all of these issues, she's done massive flip-flops to move herself to the centre and become more electable as a president. But in fact, all her background suggests she is the most progressive, left-wing Democrat nominee ever. I mean, that's a fact, isn't it?
Man, I wish. I super wish. I mean, I'm a big Bernie girl. I'm a big old scary lefty. You know what I mean? Everyone would probably think I'm a crazy Marxist just because I want everyone to have health care. I wish. And sadly, I think you might be right, Piers. You know, Kamala Harris was asked about health care, and unlike Donald Trump, who quite literally has no plan, in fact said he had the concepts of a plan, but excused himself by saying he wasn't president, therefore he didn't have a plan. Yeah, but my guy, you're running for president. But Kamala Harris also once said that she believed that we should expand Medicare and that we should lower the age to 55 and in effect be on our way to a public option, which again would help all Americans out, not just poor Americans, not just older Americans.
Oh, don't interrupt,
listen,
buddy.
Ted
Don't
Cruz
interrupt,
is best
buddy.
boy. Look, I know Ted lets you interrupt and whatever, But now you're on Piers' show. Let us talk, okay?
Dude, I love this one-liner. Like, that hurts me. If you're going to talk about a record, then be honest with the people watching. Kamala Harris said she wanted to get rid of private insurance.
I'm trying to agree with you, my guy.
All right, hang on, time out. Let me bring in the only person who's not shouting at the moment, Brandon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that she's a complete liar, and they didn't fact check anything she said. The young lady claims that Kamala Harris has a plan for healthcare. Well, she's going to do all these things. She haven't done anything.
Didn't.
She's been in Congress. She's been a VP. She has done nothing. Their administration has done nothing. I think Donald Trump sealed the argument at the very end of the debate when he said, "You guys had 3 years. You didn't do nothing."
But why did he leave it, Brandon?
Brandon,
why did Trump?
Hang on, don't talk about it. They lowered the price of insulin. And meanwhile, Republicans in the Senate and the Congress are trying to overturn that. They're trying to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act that allowed seniors to cap their insulin prices at $35 a month.
Let me ask a different question.
They should go back to paying.
Let me ask a different question, please.
Their own health
All right,
conditions.
Francesca, I'm moderating this, please. Now,
Right now.
Brandon, you raised an interesting point. Right at the end, Trump made by far his most powerful point, and he was coherent and articulate and said, "You promise all these things throughout this debate. Why haven't you done them?" Very good argument. And the two most powerful weapons he had were economy and inflation and ordinary day-to-day prices, which people are really feeling the pinch on, and immigration, where she was the immigration czar, even though everyone tried to pretend late after she got the big gig that she wasn't, but she was, and she singularly failed in that task. But somehow she emerged from a 90-minute live debate without being held to the fire on either of those things. And it's no good for Trump to say it right at the end.
Pets, Piers, because your boy talked about eating pets. That's why
he
lost the debate.
A, he's not my boy. He's not my boy. And B, I agree with you.
Hold on.
You call him out. You always brag about how you talk to him on the phone.
I've known Trump a long time, and he occasionally calls me. Brandon.
Pierce, this woman is on your show. The young lady in the middle is on your show as an example of a leftist nut job. She's claiming that people are not complaining in the community in Ohio on television. I did it on my show. I showed it. People are complaining about Haitians eating these animals. They're acting like this is just a made-up stuff from
this morning as well.
And wait, so I thought this guy was crying earlier about being interrupted. Now he keeps interrupting people. Can we get this guy like some moderation over here?
Hey, soy boy, slow down a minute.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump said at the very end. You guys are on the same side of the aisle. You're both lying your face off right now. It's terrible.
You can't dispute what we say. Let me speak and then let me speak and I'll let you speak.
I'll talk about all of that when I'm given my time to speak. I'll fact check all of you.
All right, let me finish my thoughts and then we can go on. The reason that it was so powerful at the very end, because at the end of the day, the American people are sick of these politicians rehearsing talking points. The woman had forever to make this country better. She did nothing. She was a part of the Biden administration. She ran with him in 2020, and then she was running with him until they kicked him out of the election. She had no policy debates against what Joe Biden had in place, not one time. All of a sudden, she now has a new revived theology. It's not
all right, thank you, Brandon. Harry, your response to that.
Thanks to the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration? Because that's what they did, actually. The American Rescue Plan put money in the pocketbooks of American families, $300 a month to be specific about it. That was called the Child Care Tax Plan, and they're going to expand it if reelected.
Who you know
benefits all families, people who have children. I thought Republicans were all about forcing people to have kids, even though they don't want them. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's plan for childcare, did we hear it? Did we hear it, everybody? It was tariffs on China.
They didn't even ask.
How are tariffs on China? Which, by the way, if you like any goods, if you like buying things in this country,
that is literally what he said.
That's going to raise the price.
Okay, hang on. Let me get some order, please. Let me get some order, please. The truth about tariffs on China, as even the moderators pointed out, is that actually, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris kept a lot of those tariffs that Trump introduced. So if they didn't like them, why didn't they get rid of them? Harry, let me bring Harry in. He'd been waiting reasonably patiently, albeit not even responding to the soy jibe, which I was astonished by.
Oh, don't worry, I'll get there.
Overall, Harry, though, look, you put all your cards on Joe Biden. That blew up in smoke. You're putting all your cards now on Kamala Harris. How worried are you that we got 54 days to go, or 52 days now, that she may not be able to get over the finishing line, that this debate may turn out to be an outlier?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Two things. The gentleman in the blue suit was crying about being interrupted while simultaneously interrupting people. He also wanted to go after Kamala Harris for being a flip-flopper. Donald Trump, oh, look, he's doing it again. He's doing it again right now. Donald Trump the other day said he was voting for the... Can you be quiet? Can you be quiet for 5 seconds? Donald Trump the other day said that he was voting against the Florida ballot abortion initiative. Then the next day he flipped his position. You want to talk about flip-flopper? Let's talk about that. Now, Brandon on the end says the Biden administration hasn't done anything. I'm sorry, Brandon. Do you think that 1.2 million people, veterans, having access to more healthcare than they did before is not doing something? Do you not think the largest investment in infrastructure since Eisenhower is not doing something? Do you think that capping insulin at $35 a month is not doing something? Do you think capping out-of-pocket expenses for seniors at $2,000 a year, starting in 25, not doing anything? I'm sorry. Are all of these things that help people not doing anything? Now, Piers, to your question. Now, look at these. Look at these triggered guys over here. They're the real Piers. We're looking at the real snowflakes over here.
You just talked about
we're looking at the real
America.
snowflakes over here. We're looking at the real snowflakes over here. It's terrible.
On charging stations and built 3 of them
Stop being such a snowflake. Stop being such a snowflake. Don't be triggered. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, $350 billion. $350 billion with a B in 5 years on new roads and bridges around the country. You can go to whitehouse.gov right now and see a map of... I'm telling you, hey, listen up. I'm telling you, you can go to whitehouse.gov right now and look a map of the United States of all the different active projects right now in states all around the country. Thank you, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, for investing in America and bringing manufacturing back to America. 800,000 jobs, ladies and gents.
Listen.
Now, can I answer Piers? Now, can you guys stop being triggered snowflakes so I can answer Pierce's question, please? My God, just take a breather, gentlemen. It's okay.
If this was
Piers,
true,
I just think men are too
Donald Trump
emotional. I think men are too emotional and they can't lead. I think they just can't lead, Piers. I think they're too emotional.
Time out. When the person who's calmest is the woman who was eating her cat earlier, I know I've lost control of my panel.
If this was
okay,
true,
so Piers, to your question now.
If this was true, Piers,
he's still triggered over
Donald
there.
Trump,
He's still other way. He's still triggered over there.
You're just talking fluff. If this
Piers,
was true,
Brandon, I have to answer Pierce's question. Can you take a breather?
Very quickly, Harry, actually answer the question, please. Very quickly.
There we go. Thank you, Piers. What I was going to say is I'm not concerned about Kamala Harris not getting over the finish line. The debate was not an anomaly. It shows that she is so much better, so much more experienced than Donald Trump. She has the necessary resume to be the next president of the United States. And it wasn't even close, Piers. And I was amazed to see your tweet this morning talking about how Kamala Harris wiped the floor with Donald Trump, and it was a bad night for Donald Trump. Yeah. I'm happy that for once we are on the same side of an issue.
Well, I always call things exactly as I see them, as I'm sure you know, Francesca. So, Francesca, your final thoughts before we wrap up this.
Yeah, I mean, I think sadly, Donald Trump had a chance to actually lay out a plan for healthcare, and he didn't. He had a chance to lay out a plan for IVF. He didn't. He had a chance to lay out a plan for the economy, and he didn't. And that is because his administration will be a siphon for taking money from the working class and funneling it up to the ultra wealthy, as he did when he was president before, with the largest tax breaks in American history that added $2 trillion to the debt and allowed billionaires to write off their private jets. Kamala Harris's biggest moment, and this is what I think a lot of Americans are voting on, is character. And Donald Trump allowing himself to be baited, allowing himself, please, Ted Cruz's best boy, allowing himself to be baited like that showed that he does not have the character to lead this nation.
All right, hang on. Ben Ferguson, you can respond.
Let me say this. I'm sorry that your biggest accomplishment is eating your cat on TV on Piers Morgan. I hang out and try to solve real problems with people that actually are in the government, running the government, Ted Cruz. If that's a knock on me for being successful, then hang out with my cat at home. I'm totally cool with that.
But it's nothing to do with
you support a convicted felon or sexual abuser. Don't talk to me about character.
The American people
who like that
care right now.
On Twitter?
Again, I'll use your favorite woman's line. I'm speaking. The American people right now are hurting. You're sitting here and you're talking about things that don't affect the American people. Piers, let me say this. Let me say this quickly.
Please let him finish.
You have a problem right now, and this is the reason why Kamala Harris is going to lose. The people that represent her have no care or clue about what's happening in America to people that are suffering. They come up with these points where they're personal attacks at the 8th grade level to defend her. It's a bad look. And this is why the American people don't trust her. They don't trust her because she lies to them. And she
Your
claims
friend
that
to the
she's
right
against
used
fracking,
soy boy in
then
this
she's
debate.
in favor
Pipe
of
down, my
fracking.
man. Pipe
I
down.
know what I believe in. You
Pipe
guys
down.
flip-flop all the time. And if this is the best that Kamala Harris has on TV defending her, she will lose the election. It's an embarrassment to her.
Okay, well, just to clarify,
No, because you're right,
Harry,
Ben. A random guy with a comb over is definitely going to convince us to vote for Donald Trump.
Just to clarify.
No, I'm just pointing out that he's talking about Kamala Harris surrogates being like immature and childish. His friend to the right of him is using soy boy as an insult on Piers Morgan. I mean, please, Piers. I mean, it's look, Piers and I think we are on the same side of this. What a ridiculous thing.
I mean, this is again triggered. When you don't have real ideas, this is what happens.
Francesca, how am I going to come back from that?
I'm going to make my bed because I'm actually exhausted by this panel. I have to say, you have literally exhausted me. So thank you all for joining me. It's going to run and run for 50-odd days now. This has been the most unpredictable, gripping, thrilling roller coaster race of all time. I cannot wait to see what happens, and I can't wait to have you all back for more of this measured, calm debate between good friends.
Thank you.